found a means of escape, he was set to destroy it? That act might have been forced upon him for two reasons: to keep him here, and to impress upon him how powerless he was. Powerless? A flick of stubborn will stirred to respond to that implied challenge. All right, the mysterious. They had made him do this. But they had underrated him by letting him learn, almost contemptuously, of their presence by that revelation. So warned, he was in a manner armed. He could prepare to fight back. He squatted by the wreckage as he thought that through, turning over broken pieces. And Shann realized he must present at the moment a satisfactory picture of despondency to any spy. A spy? That was it. Someone or something must have him under observation, or his activities of the day before would not have been so summarily countered. And if there was a spy, then there was his answer to the riddle: to trap the trapper. Such action might be a project beyond his resources, but it was his own counterattack. So now he had a role to play. Not only must he search the island for the trace of his spy, but he must do it in such a fashion that his purpose would not be plain to the enemy he suspected. The wolverines could help. Shann arose, allowed his shoulders to droop, slouching to the slope with all the air of a beaten man which he could assume, whistling for Taggi and Togi. When they came, his exploration began. Ostensibly, he was hunting for lengths of drift or suitable growing saplings to take the place of those he had destroyed under orders. But he kept a careful watch on the animal pair, hoping by their reactions to pick up a clue to any hidden watcher. The larger of the two beaches marked the point where the Terrans had first landed and where the shell thing had been killed. The smaller was more of a narrow tongue thrust out into the lagoon, much of it choked with sizable boulders. On earlier visits there, Taggi and Togi had poked into the hollows among these with their usual curiosity. But now both animals remained upslope, showing no inclination to descend to the water line. Shann caught hold of Taggi's scruff, pulling him along. The wolverine twisted and whined, but he did not fight for freedom as he would have upon scenting Throng. Not that the Terran had ever believed one of those aliens was responsible for the happenings on the island. Taggi came down under Shann's urging, but he was plainly ill at ease. And at last he snarled a warning when the man would have drawn him closer to two rocks which met overhead in a crude semblance of an arch. There was a stick of drift protruding from that hollow, affording Shann a legitimate excuse to venture closer. He dropped his hold on the wolverines, stooped together in the length of wood, and at the same time glanced into the pocket. Water lay just beyond, making this a doorway to the lagoon. The sun had not yet penetrated into the shadow, if it ever did. Shann reached for the wood, at the same time drawing his finger across the flat rock which would furnish a stepping stone for anything using that door as an entrance to the island. Wet, which might mean his visitor had recently arrived, or else merely that a splotch of spray had landed there not too long before. But in his mind, Shann was convinced that he had found the spy's entrance. Could he turn it into a trap? He added a piece of drift to his bundle and picked up two more before he returned to the cliff ahead. A trap. He revolved in his mind all the traps he knew which could be used here. He already had decided upon the bait, his own work, and if his plans went through, and hope does not die easily, then this time he would not waste his labor either. So he went back to the same job he had done the day before, making do with skin strips he had considered second best before, smoothing, cutting. Only the trap occupied his mind, and close to sunset he knew just what he was going to do and how. Though the Terran did not know the nature of the unseen opponent, he thought he could guess two weaknesses which might deliver the other into his hands. First, the enemy was entirely confident of success in this venture. No being who was able to control Shann as completely and ably as had been done the night before would credit any prey with the power to strike back in force. Second, such a confident enemy would be unable to resist watching the manipulation of a captive. The Terran was certain that his opponent would be on the scene somewhere when he was led, dreaming, to destroy his work once more. He might be wrong on both of those counts, but inwardly he didn't believe so. However, he had to wait until the dark to set up his own answer. One so simple, he was certain the enemy would not suspect it at all. This concludes the reading of Chapter 10.